Okay, I thought I would follow up last week's talk about letting go and talk a little bit about relationship. And as I've been thinking about relationship, I realize it's going to, it's an infinite um, discussion. So I'm going to, probably, I can't say everything in one short Dharma talk. So I will talk about some more aspects of relationship in the coming weeks. And the reason I thought about talking about relationship this week is because after talking about letting go, it's because in relationship to other people and to things that we call things, it's in that relationship that we find ourselves having difficulty with letting go. I don't know if I've told you that my name is, my Dharma name is Sho-En Myogo, which means auspicious relationship. That's what Sho-En means. And Myogo means inconceivable awakening. And Grace gave me this name when I was ordained. And I took it to mean that it was in relationship that I would experience awakening. Through that relationship was my path. And I, and thinking about the important relationships in my life at that time, they were mainly my husband and with Grace. And so I took relationship with them, the intimacy of those two relationships, on as my central practice. And the other thing is that about that kind of intimate relationship, especially with someone that you live with, is there's no escape, or not much. And so it offers a fantastic continuous opportunity, minute by minute, day after day. And it's actually within these kinds of intimate relationship that you encounter who you really are. And as I said, the opportunity for practice is all day long. And even whether you're in their physical presence or not. And intimacy is an extremely important aspect of Zen practice. Of course, we're in relationship with everyone and everything all day long, including ourselves, if we practice that way. But it's the significant so-called others in our lives, relatives, partners, children, valued possessions, nature, animals, that present the opportunities for practice and for the encounter with the great matter of birth, life, and death. There is so much to say about relationship that I'm sure that I've forgotten a lot. And so maybe this talk, as I said, will serve us only just to get started. And I'm sure you have many insights in your experience. The Buddha taught that intimate friendship is the whole of the path, based on this intimate quality that I'm talking about. Intimacy, ethics, communication, diligence, energy, and insight into impermanence, all are part of an intimate spiritual friendship. Relationship is where we experience both suffering and joy, and where we can find out all about the value and the difficulty of letting go, and about attention and contemplation, and where we learn to treat ourselves and others kindly. In other words, it's where we practice the Four Noble Truths. It's where we learn about difference and sameness, otherwise known as form and emptiness, because in form we are all different and separate, and in emptiness we are all one and not separated. It's where we experience Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in our very lives. So let me offer you some of the traditional teachings on this subject for a minute. One of the ways of thinking about Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is the three kayas, or bodies: Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. And if you're familiar with the chant that we do when we do Oryoki, the meal chant, you hear us give honor to the three kayas. And I didn't really understand that what they meant. But these three terms are used to describe the presence of the Buddha in our lives, both within and without. The Dharmakaya is the truth body, the essential nature of a person that is without form. It is, quote, nothing whatever, but everything arises from it, which is a quote from a Tibetan chant. It's the essence of Buddha nature. See, I wrote something here that I can't read now. It's the, let's see, I'll just go on because I can't see what it is. I can't see what I wrote. The Sambhogakaya is the relational, communicative quality, the bridge between emptiness and form, where ethics arise, where the teachings reside and are taught. Oh, I see what I wrote. Okay. It's the D in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, as the Dharmakaya is the B in Buddha and Dharma, the Buddha part in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The Nirmanakaya is called the emanation body, the physical body, the body of form that we can see and touch and be in relationship with. It's the Sangha in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And this relational quality is central to our practice, and it's central to our understanding of form and emptiness. Form and emptiness are in radical relationship with each other. We talk about them as if they're two separate things, and I think thinking about them as relational helps us bridge that separation that our language and our philosophical tradition locks us into. So in both a mystical and a practical sense, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is right here, and we don't have to look further than each other for the gateway to realization and awakening. All of which to me is a beautiful way of thinking just this is it, that the gateway to awakening is right here all the time. And we choose to accept the challenge that's offered or not, but it's here. Once we've committed to taking the backward step into awareness by watching ourselves, this starts to reveal itself. And of course, the stimulus for examination is suffering. We're pretty much not interested in self-examination when everything is groovy. So in relationship with an intimate partner, I say or do something that he doesn't like, or he says or does something that I don't like, and blam, that Dharma gate is wide open. And I can choose to enter it or not. I've mentioned before that I used to see my relationship with my husband like this. If I'm irritated, it's because I'm irritating. If I'm irritated, it's because I'm irritable. If he's irritated, it's because I'm irritating. And this was very painful for me because this is the way it seemed to shape up, because of my long history of believing at heart that problems in relationship are always my fault. I had the idea that that if I were irritating, I hated the idea that if I were actually irritating, because if it was true, that would verify that terrifying belief about my fundamental lack of worth. And of course, I defended myself with outrage, which only served further to verify that horrifying, self-destroying belief. as we do. I couldn't think of a way out of this dilemma until I thought, what have I got to lose but my ego? And I decided to accept the possibility that I am irritating and to let go of my defensive posture and see what happened. It was a counterintuitive move because on the face of it, it would seem that it would plunge me, it was masochistic, and it would plunge me right into the hell realm of self-deprecation. But it didn't. I was free. I was free of denying it and defending myself, explaining and rationalizing my behavior. Moreover, I could see him. My self-centered dream faded away and I could see his suffering. I could see both of our suffering. I could see my experience as suffering. And I felt that I still felt the sting of his irritation and the way that experience can tend to open up that sinkhole of self-blame and fear and shame. But I didn't have to dive into it. I could just see that it was there. And the sting was less, and it no longer ran the show. I saw my suffering, and I could see his, and respond to it, and apologize, and commit to doing better, and not think of that incident as a deal breaker. Now, I'm not saying that this is how one should approach every disagreement or every painful incident that happens between individuals. But what it does is it gives some space to consider what is the best, most wholesome way to proceed. Because certainly it's legitimate in a close relationship to ask someone not to poke at your wounds. And what tends to happen in these moments, these kind of clashing moments, I call it the clash of wounds. We're both wounded and we've both got our dukes up and ready to blame. So taking a breath and stepping back and watching it for a bit and waiting until there's some calm, and then you can say, hey, I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't tease me about that, or whatever it is that was the second arrow on my essential woundedness. The thing is, how do you know what the right thing to do is? And that's the rub, essentially, because we all carry the scars of all our wounds and our needs for comfort and healing with us all the time, and we step on each other's toes and hurt each other and defend ourselves. We're all both irritable and irritating. Sorry to say that. And irritated, for that matter. In one way or another, and protecting and defending our vulnerability and fragility, another good word for that. All painful behavior arises from suffering. Relationship, especially intimate relationship with partners, relatives, teachers, and friends, gives us a chance to contemplate these questions of when to hold them and when to show them, and when to fold them. And it's the ongoing koan of bumping up against each other. And this is why Sangha is so important in Zen, for Zen practice, and why I encourage everyone to come back to the Zen Center in person again, if you can, when it's safe. Because here we have the opportunity to interact and practice together, working on this koan together, and that's very rare and very precious. I ran across a quote from the On Being blog that I get every week, and I'm sorry to say that I did not record the full name of the philosopher. Her first name is Esther. Maybe somebody knows who she is, but here it is. And so this was in the context of a blog that was asking, what for you does it mean to be human? And Esther's answer is enlightening. We all come into this world with a need for connection and protection and with a need for freedom. From the first moment on, we will be straddling these two needs. What is me and what is us? This constant dance between me and you, between I and thou, is at the core of being human. And probably many of you recognize the reference to I and thou, which is drawn from the work of the philosopher Martin Buber. And he contrasted the quality of an I-thou relationship with an I-it relationship of two ways of addressing existence. And so we can do this in two ways. The attitude of the I towards an it, towards an object that is separate in itself, which we either use or experience, or the attitude of the I towards thou in a relationship in which the other is not separated by discrete bounds. And I think this is a very Buddhist idea, really encompassing both form and emptiness, and seeing everything, every being as both an it and a thou, with the eyes of both form and emptiness. Maybe being a bit careful to notice when we're treating our friend or partner or an animal or nature as an it, expecting and manipulating them into being in service to our needs at all times. When we see ourselves doing that and become willing to stop, we step into I, thou. So I'll stop here. And I'm sure that you can add to this reflection. And so we'll take a couple of minutes for reflection.